All right. You should be able to hear me now. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Let me know. Just give me a thumbs up before I actually continue. And then I'll restart again around what I was talking about. Okay. So can you hear me? Let me know. Awesome. Okay, cool. So what I was saying was, I did a live yesterday, and it was a bit of an impromptu one, and I ended up being online for probably about an hour and 15 minutes roughly. We spoke about energy prices, we spoke about investing, we spoke about a few things, and I would love to hear your thoughts as people around what you think about the energy prices, how it's impacting you, and just really just to be here to listen to hear your views. um, so I know that there's one person one person did try to join. You've just dropped out. If you want to join, there is a link pinned at the top of the comment section. You don't have to have your camera on if you don't want to. You don't have to be on camera, but I would love to hear your thoughts. There are a few things that I will want to go through as well. Because funny enough, this afternoon I'm with British Gas, so I'm actually on a standard tariff at the moment. So I thought I'd do a little bit of a recon before this live just to see what assistance British Gas is actually offering people at this point in time to support who may be a little bit worried about energy prices and the fact that a lot of people will be in a position where they can't afford it. We'll talk about how that went a bit later on, but suffice to say, it didn't go well. Not only are their phone lines not open on the weekend, you have to resort to a chat, and the chat wasn't great, if I'm completely honest. So it's a shame. It really, really is a shame. They do have the British Gas Energy Trust, which is a form of help, which I guess they have put up to help people by way of grants. And maybe it might be worthwhile going through that in this live session, just to kind of highlight what they've got on offer and how it might help you. However, there are some hoops that you have to jump through. And I have actually covered a video which talked about this in depth, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, but I think it might be worthwhile going over it again. But like I said, if you do want to join, the link is pinned at the comment at the top of the comment section. It will be great to hear from you. And no judgment, nothing at all, just there to listen and for you to air your views of how things are, how you're finding things, your views. I've got a couple of questions as well. Should they be nationalized? There was a tweet that went out, I believe it was yesterday or so, talking about the cost of nationalizing the big five. They're saying it would cost around about £2.8 billion to nationalize them. I don't know how accurate that number is, and I don't know where that number came from. Um, Considering the amount of profits that they're making, I don't know how that essentially stacks up. But apparently, that's how much it would cost. And that is going to be greater than what the estimated cost of the price cap increase is going to be, apparently. So, is it worthwhile nationalizing? Do you think they should be nationalized? Should they be brought into public ownership again? What are your thoughts? These are the kind of things that I really want to get into in this live. Essentially, there are Joe's basically just saying here, yeah, their app support is terrible. So what I did, and I did in the end, because obviously I was going to do this live. Whenever you're in the on the website or on the you've got to do this on the website, because I did this on the website using the chat function on the website. You can actually print out a transcript of the conversation. If I read this to you, you would be shocked, because bearing in mind we're in a situation where we've just seen the energy price cap increase by 80%, right? You would expect that they will be getting a lot of calls from worried customers, and you would expect that they would be trained to listen. And I know that this is done by texting, and it's very, very hard to convey emotion in text format. But you can still feel when someone's interested in what your question is, and when they're trying to move you on because maybe there's a little bit of a cue. And that's what I got. I got one line answers. I got very brief, dismissive statements. The number of times the person just went silent for like 5 minutes and I had to type hello, and it was like, well, yes. And it's like, you've not answered my previous question. That person dropped off, it got transferred to somebody else. That person did exactly the same thing, dropped off and transferred me to somebody else. And it was at that point that I said, well, hang on a second, this is a journalistic inquiry. I want to see what support you actually have for people who may be worried about paying their bills. At that point, the guy was interested in being helpful, in having a look at my account and trying to work out what help they would have available. I actually asked them the question. I asked them directly, what assistance can you offer as a provider to someone who may be struggling with their energy bills? And they sent me the link. Well, this is their response. All UK domestic households, eligibility is currently defined as one domestic meter point per customer will now receive a £400 discount called the Energy Bill Support Scheme, which is the government scheme, right? They will point me to the £400, which has already been announced, which was part of the £15 billion package that Rishi Sunak announced. So I had to say, what help are you offering specifically? No response. So it's really, really disappointing. Really, really, really disappointing to know that someone like British Gas, who's quite a big company, posted quite a lot of profits, Centrica posted quite a lot of profits. They don't seem to have adequately trained staff on their chat function to show any kind of interest or compassion or empathy with people who may be contacting them, worried about their bills, seeking help. None whatsoever. It took until the third person to actually point me in the direction of the British Gas Energy Trust, which again I've covered on the channel. But let me just show you this actually whilst we're on the topic, because I think it will be useful if you don't know about this at this point in time. Let me just get rid of this caption very quickly. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so this is the British Gas Energy Trust essentially. So this right here is their form of help. So basically, they're making available pots of money, so grants available to you, so that if you are struggling with your energy bill, making ends meet in that regard, you can apply for one of their grants. Now, on the previous video that I did maybe a couple of months ago, I highlighted that they said that the average claim was around about £700, roughly was the average claim or grant that they gave. You can go up to a grant of 1,500, but they're saying on the website here that that is down to special disposition. Essentially, it's not something they will commonly do. But £700, if you're struggling, can still be a large amount. It's more than what the government is actually handing out at the moment with that £400 that every household is going to start receiving from October. Okay, so that's automatically going to be added to your energy account. Or your prepay meter if you're on a prepay meter. Now, there are some hurdles with this British Gas Energy Trust, okay? So first and foremost, you have to go and make sure that you go and find a local money and energy advice charity. Okay, so I'm working at the moment with turntous.org.uk, and they are on the list. So you have to basically get some fuel and money advice. And what they're saying here is that these advice centers or these charities will be able to give you help with budgeting. If you've been watching the channel, you probably already had a look at your budget. You're already, cutting fat. You're already cutting things out to ensure that you're able to make room for these increases. But the reality is the increases are going to go far beyond what most households can actually budget for. So whilst budgeting is still important, it isn't going to be the end all and be all. It's not going to solve the problems that we're facing. Now, can you get any benefit or income maximization? So this is, can you run checks? So this is what turntous.org essentially does. You can go through a benefits calculator with them, and essentially what they will do is they will have a look and see if there's any benefits that you are eligible for that you've left on the table that you can claim. I spoke about this last night on the live. The average household who completed their calculator in the last 12 months, I believe walked out with just over £5,000 in additional benefits that they were unaware of. I'll take you through their website in a bit if that's useful. Obviously, they need to have a look at energy supplier switching tariffs. Now, interestingly, British Gas do not have any fixed tariffs right now. I found that really, really weird. So we're in a position where the energy price cap is increasing every 3 months. So we know that the price cap is going to increase in October. We're going to see another one in January. We're going to see another one in April. At this point in time, British Gas does not have a fixed tariff that you can go into. Now, that for me, I'll come back to this in a minute. Let me just make this point. That for me is a little counterintuitive because it means that I'm with British Gas right now and I am on the standard tariff, the standard variable tariff. So I know that energy prices are going to be increasing in October. So my direct debit is going to jump 80% in October. I can't fix into a deal right now. And I know that the energy prices are going to increase in January and then in April. At this point in time, I can't lock in anything. I find that really, really bizarre. So there are no tariffs at the moment with British Gas that I could lock into whatsoever. I find that really, really bizarre. I don't know whether other energy companies are exactly the same. There may be a good reason why they've done that. It just doesn't make sense to me at this point in time unless someone is able to explain that, maybe in the chat, for example. They want you to go through resolution of energy debt problems. Now, obviously, I've tried to speak to British Gas this afternoon and see what help they have available. And I said, well, if I was someone who couldn't pay my direct debit, what would you do for me? Well, then the guy got round to, let's have a look at your meter reading, so on and so forth. We don't know how long this is going to be and what this process actually looks like at this point in time. For anyone who might be struggling, I would love to know what that looks like in practicality. Is that just something that they have there on their website, or is there something tangible? Is there a tangible process that they're offering people to go through? I have no idea. Negotiating with energy suppliers. Well, most people are going to be doing that, but if British Gas don't have any fixed tariffs right now, well, there is no negotiation to do with you because I'm stuck on a standard variable tariff, right? So, and there's a host of other things you've got to do. Completing grant applications for, the British Gas Energy Trust, other helpful schemes. You've got to do a ton of stuff. And these are the organizations that they're signposting people to. So turn to us.org.uk, who I'm working with, Step Change, National Deadline, Citizens Advice, National Website, right? Citizens Advice Bureau. So you've got to jump through a few hoops. And once you've done all of that, then you can start applying for help, potentially, actually going for their grant. Now, like I said, if I just go back, actually, because it doesn't show you where you are on here. Where was it? Where actually was it? Because it did show that the maximum that they would give out is 1,500 quid. But again, that is in very special circumstances. I will link this, by the way, guys, in the comment section of this after we finish streaming. But there is help out there, but it feels as though there isn't any structured help whatsoever. And if anybody has any alternative experiences that you do want to share with maybe another provider that you're with, I would love to hear what that experience has been like, so that people who watch this stream after we finish this can actually maybe perhaps pick up something that they might actually find useful. My conversation with British Gas, albeit on their chat function this afternoon, was not fruitful in any way, shape, or form. If anything, I left there feeling really angry and frustrated because they didn't really seem to want to help. And I don't know whether that's because maybe I just caught two bad people who just couldn't be bothered, who aren't UK based, who just don't appreciate the situation that we're in. I have no idea, but it just felt as though they didn't care. And, on the weekends, their telephone lines aren't open. So you can't get the cadence of speaking to somebody and getting that understanding that they appreciate and understand where you're coming from in conversation. So I appreciate that, texting and typing things doesn't necessarily convey that emotion, but I walked away from it actually quite angry of the responses that I was getting, very one line, not interested. So again, if you do want to join, you do want to share your experiences or your insights with your dealings with your energy provider, again, the link is pinned on the comment section. You don't have to be on camera if you don't want to. I'm just going to try and get through some of the comments that have come in here. Let's see where we are. Okay, so this is an interesting one. I asked, do you think they should be nationalized? Cardano is saying here that yes, energy and water should be nationalized, and energy prices are also going to be rising again next year and will continue for the next 2 years. Gas and oil is a natural resource, which we should. I guess there's a follow up to that. Let me just find it. 1 second. Okay, there's quite a lot on here already. 1 second. Which we should own, is what you're saying here. By nationalizing it will help our children and grandchildren not to have to pay higher taxes in the next 50 to 100 years. I would agree with that. I'm livid that the government pay no energy bills. It's part of their expenses, even though they rent out their real homes. And I think this is a really good point, because I think, how do you expect, the MPs in Parliament, who are supposed to be representing their constituents and representing the people, to understand what it's like to pay extraordinary energy bills when you're able to expense those bills yourself? I don't see how you can see where people come from and understand the pain that people are having to go through when you're not even paying your own energy bill. I think that's a really, really, really good point there from Cardano there. What else we've got here? The figure is the cost of nationalizing the suppliers who are actually loss making since 2020, not the generators where the profits are being made. We will still have to buy on wholesale markets. Yeah, okay, so that's clearing up the 2.8 billion that tweet that I saw on Twitter earlier today. Like I said, I didn't think the number would actually stack up when you've got companies who are able to refine the oil, making that kind of profit, and that's really what's driven those profits. It's the refinery of it all that's driven the profits over the last quarter or so. So interesting point there. Thanks for that. I did cover a little bit of this yesterday in terms of, why are energy prices increasing so much? And I gave the example of Germany, right? So Germany has a lot of storage facilities for their energy that they buy. So they can buy in bulk. And what they basically then do is they store. So if you were listening to the radio yesterday, they had the German ambassador to the UK on a radio show, and he was saying that they've got enough energy in storage to get them halfway through the winter season. So what they've done is they pre-bought that at a lower, at a better price than the spot price on the wholesale market. We haven't actually got any tangible or significant storage capacity or facilities here in the UK, because the budget for that was cut, rumoredly, 2 or 3 years ago by apparently Liz Truss. So what we're having to do is we're having to buy energy at the spot price on the wholesale market as and when we need the energy, because we can't stockpile it for future use and bag ourselves a discount in the in doing so. And so it becomes a really, really difficult situation. And again, we spoke about this yesterday, but how high do these bills go? I saw a tweet or a report yesterday that was saying £6,000. I saw one this morning that was saying even more than that. It's not to scaremonger. We don't really know how much or how realistic those numbers are likely to be. But I think the reality is that, when you start looking at this price cap that was just announced, it was in the 70s, now it's 80. And I said, when we spoke about inflation being at 13%, that I was even reading reports at that point to say that the government and the Bank of England are grossly underestimating the impact of the price cap increase in the inflation numbers. And we're at 13%. That's, once these energy price increases start kicking in, it will be interesting to see the inflation number in October. That's all I'm going to say, because I think we'll be really, really surprised at how steeply it's going to jump with an 80% energy price cap increase due to hit literally in the next 6 weeks or so. Who's just saying here, if anything, it should be nationalised. It's the generators, and it will cost way more than the TUC in quoting, as they say. They have just made billions in the early parts of 2021, no, 2022. Really, it was the quarterly returns that we're looking at, isn't it? Um, let's have a look at this one, Leslie. For the price of a good holiday, you can buy solar panels and reduce your energy consumption by up to 80%. Must be a homeowner. It's interesting on that one because there are still questions around, and I don't know the numbers behind it. It'll be interesting to see if there's actually a report that actually can substantiate the solar panel debate on there. Because when you look at the cost of installment, I always look at that as maybe more of a long term investment rather than an immediate impact. Because how much sun do we really need to be able to offset those costs? I'm sure there will be savings somewhere, but will it have an immediate impact versus actually if you invest this over the long term, it actually spans out? I don't know, and maybe that's something the government actually needs to help with, incentivize households, homeowners to actually put on solar panels, kind of like they did before, but maybe ramp that up a little bit more and actually have a look at how you actually store that energy as well. And this is where, we talk about Tesla all the time. The Tesla Powerwall could come into its own here in terms of storing the energy that you get so that you can use it a bit later on. But it will be interesting to see what, based on our climate and our weather, typically how much energy solar panels actually will produce for a house in typical England based on usage. I'm sure there will be savings, but will it make a big difference? But as they say, every little help, little bit will help, right? Someone's saying here, fixed tariffs are offered to their own customers, but now they are being pulled because of the eye-watering predictions. Mean the fixed deals are scary and creating bad press. Yeah, that's a good point. But again, I think you need to have. I don't. My feeling is you need to have a fixed tariff available for people to be able to make a choice. Because if you don't have them, if the price cap keeps increasing every 3 months and we don't see a reduction, I don't know, man. I really don't know what the solution to it is. But it's weird because there's someone who watches the channel who follows on Instagram. He works for a business, and you can they present the ability for you to fix at lower than typical rates or typical deals currently. But the catch is you have to move pretty much all of your services to them. So that includes broadband, includes your TV, and the more you move, the bigger the discount they apply. I was within two minds of whether I should do a video kind of like comparing them, but I think things move too quickly for me to be able to do that because by the time we get 3 months down the line, things have probably changed. Their packages have probably changed as well. So I thought I'd leave that alone. But I don't know. Maybe do we need those choices? I personally would have liked to have seen what the prices would be if I could fix right now, in opposed to staying on the variable rate, knowing that the my prices will go up quite a bit come October 1st. And I think a lot of people who may be struggling would like that option as well. But that's just my thinking. Just going to find something else here. One second. Where are we? Okay, we're here. Naeem, how you doing? Hope you're well. Before stating my energy price situation, it's great to see you're doing a live as always. You give nuggets. Plus, you're doing well on the Rain Show and Rewirement podcast. Cheers, mate. So I didn't actually talk about being on the Rewirement podcast with LNG. That came about purely because I've got old colleagues from Canary Wharf who work for LNG. So they reached out to me. Jenny reached out to me and was like, "Oh, we've got a podcast. We'd love someone to contribute. We'd love you to contribute." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, cool." It was a nice little reunion with some of my old colleagues. And yeah, thanks for Lorraine, by the way. We've done quite a few of Lorraine now. We're pushing to have it as a regular thing, but as things currently are, those kind of things you have to bide your time for. But yeah, there's more to come on the TV front. I'm doing another show at the beginning of September, which is going to be on Channel 4, which will be daytime. I don't want to let too much out just yet, but we know that we've agreed the booking, we've agreed the date. But as always, I just don't want to jinx things by announcing them early. I'd rather just announce it as I'm doing it or just after. I've done it essentially. But thanks, mate. Really do appreciate it. And it's good to have you here as well, mate. Um, yeah, this is an interesting point. The energy market needs overhauling to separate renewable from the carbon energy market, as it's so much cheaper. Then we need to accelerate renewables to become a net exporter 100%. And, I said this yesterday, but this is a prime example where we can look back in hindsight and realize that we've been slow when it comes to investing in renewable energies, be that solar, be that wind, be that whatever, right? There have been so many ideas, passed around and muted over the last 10 years or so. And the government haven't really done anything at all. If this isn't the catalyst for there to be big investment in renewable energy specifically, I don't know what will be. And if the government does not invest and infrastructure isn't put in place so that we can secure our energy future, then it will be a massive failing by the government, or any political party that enters into the fray in the next year or two, especially certainly for the next general election. This has got to be a pivotal moment. We're looking for the government to lead. We're looking for political parties to lead. At the moment, we're seeing absolutely nothing. I think Labour had a really great plan to try and freeze things, and there is an argument to nationalise these companies. I mean, look at France. EDF, partly owned by the French government. They've only seen their energy prices go up, what, 4%? Nothing compared to the 215%. I think in Germany it's like 23% so far. 215% in the UK is, it's a national disgrace. And how this can be allowed to happen, I don't know. But we definitely need some kind of overhaul in some way, shape, or form, because this is completely and utterly unsustainable. We can't continue like this. We just can't. Just trying to find where I am. Where was I? There we go. You're making a good point here. So this is where you start to think about, okay, so you know the government can't continue to continue driving up debt, right? We know this, so it has to be funded in some way, shape, or form. And you're right. One of the reasons why you would privatize is by privatizing, you get private investors who will put money in, knowing that there's going to be a return out. Now, unfortunately, what seems to be the pattern is, and this is always going to be the case when you have a private sector running a business or a sector or a service, the investors want their money back. The investors want returns. And oftentimes what you'll hear, especially in the case of water, is there's so much being, pulled back out in profits and put back to the shareholders, rightly so, that investment into infrastructure doesn't actually happen. And this right here is the perfect example and the conundrum that needs saving. If it does get nationalized, where does the investment actually come from? How do they raise the money to actually do that? Does that mean higher taxes? If that does, how do you make sure that that is ring fenced to go into those things specifically without it going somewhere else? Who do you trust to make policy in the interest of all of this happening? I don't know. And if anyone has the answer or an inkling, please do let me know. I think we're at a point now where there is so little trust in the government and political process that a lot of people have lost faith. And a lot of people are not 100% confident that the government will do the right thing or invest in the right things in order for our society to be as successful and as smoothly run as we would like. And I think sometimes as well, the question has to be asked, is there the skill set within government to actually do that? A lot of the time when you see the Minister of Education, they don't necessarily have an educational background. They don't have a background in education. They could still be an investment banker looking and being the Minister of Education. So is there the skill set to actually make that happen with the right decisions for the future? I don't know. I mean, this is this is where we find ourselves, right? It feels as though the system needs overhauling altogether, and that's not to be political in any way, shape, or form. But I just think that's a general statement that most people would actually agree with. I don't know. Again, if you want to jump on and have your say, then please do use the link that is pinned in the chat there. Um, Okay, so Maggie's saying here that Scottish Power did not have fixed tariffs either. I looked at a different different agent, couldn't swap to another provider either. Yeah, I mean the general advice has been just to stay put because of the uncertainty of what's going on. I don't know. Uh, it's very, very difficult right now. Like I said, I know of one provider where you can actually switch them to, but I'm reluctant to mention who they are because they have this referral kind of scheme that many people will might say is kind of like a multi-level marketing, which it isn't kind of that, but it feels like that. Maybe I do need to do a video. I don't know. Maybe I should, but I know that is that one provider that you can actually switch to. But you've got to switch as much as you can in terms of your services to get the biggest discounts out there. And saying we had gas storage, the RAF, it was an old gas extraction field where we used to pump gas into store. The cost to repair it was deemed too much, so they closed it. Yeah, this is the thing. In hindsight, now was it the right decision? And look, we can always look at things in hindsight, and this is the trouble with everything in life. You make the best decision for the information that you have in front of you right there and then. And so we can go back and we can criticize and say, well, maybe that was the wrong decision because we had the benefit of, well, this is now what's happening. But back then they wouldn't have known that. And so the decision, making the best decision that makes sense at that point in time, it can always be criticized a bit later on, which is why, sometimes we do feel outraged, but we can't tell the future. We could, if whoever made the decision, if it was indeed Liz Truss who made that decision, and she knew what was going to come down the track in 2022, she probably been like, you know what, let's invest and repair it because we know it's going to put us in a better position a bit later on. But we just don't have that knowledge. This is where we wish we had a DeLorean, right? Go back and go back into the future or go forward into the future and see what's coming down the track. We just don't have that luxury to do that. Yeah. I mean, she's saying that there's now talk of actually reopening, but it's not going to help this winter. But I think more than anything else, yes, we need to have the conversation about that and reopening that. But we do, in my mind, the conversation about being energy dependent, renewable energy, so on and so forth, also needs to be a big, big priority, a massive priority moving forward. This is a good question. This is a really good question. I think with nuclear, the big concern is safety still. And you would think with technology, we will be able to do that safely now, but who knows? Who knows? Yeah, this is a good point in here on solar. Yeah, because how much is it going to offset? And if the price cap continues to rise, you're going to get to a point where actually there isn't going to be any net benefit at all. So it will be interesting to see any updated reports on that specifically to see where the break even point is and what that actual, again, looking at it from a long term point of view, what the long term return will be, because it will make sense in the longer term. But if we get into a situation where the price cap continues to rise for the next 1 to 2, even 3 years, asking people to outlay that kind of stuff with those pressures, you've got to have the spare cash available to do that. So it'll be interesting to see. Okay, here we go, Naeem. We're looking forward to this. Okay, I tried to switch over to utility warehouse. It was 4 to 5 months. It was a 4 to 5 month nightmare. Okay, I was on an out of contract rate business with Opus, costing 600 and 450 for 2 out of the 6 months while trying to switch. Wow. Okay, let me see if you've got a follow up to this, Naeem. 1 second. Okay, that's that one. That's that one. Their customer service was amazing compared to utility warehouse. Never looking at utility warehouse services again. Okay, so the provider that I was referring to was utility warehouse. So it's interesting to see that Naeem, you've got some experience of that here, because again, I don't want to do reviews of those kind of companies without really looking into them, and I generally do look into companies before I actually do reviews and try and use their product and stuff. And for me, it would mean switching on my stuff to find out whether they're any good or not, and then, being tied into a contract. And if you're going to be in a position where it's going to take, what did you say, 4 to 6 months here, 2 to 6 months, and you're paying those astronomical costs, that's terrible. A lot of people can't afford that kind of stuff. So that's interesting to know, actually. Thanks, Naeem. I'm just looking through the comments right here. Yeah, so there's a really good point here in terms of tying into any fixed rates around government support. Look, they've been silent at the moment. What? When does the Tory leadership end? I think it's in the next week or so. We should know who's going to be in number 10, who the new prime minister is going to be. It would be helpful if there was some indication of a plan, but there isn't one right now. Just by following the Tory leadership debates, I'm not 100% sure that a tax reduction is going to be the most help. Because if you're on the lower end of the income, you're not really going to get that much money back. If you're earning quite well, then a tax break is gonna help you quite nicely. So we get into that same argument of, well, a tax break will proportionately help earners more than it will low income. I mean, it could form part of a strategy, I think, but I think there needs to be a strategy, an element, a measurement, a scheme of help for low income specifically. And then, if, like Zahawi was saying yesterday, those on middle incomes, 45K, also need help, you have a plan specifically for that as well. Um, but the government needs to show a little bit more leadership. I think people are just frustrated by the fact that there is nothing right now to demonstrate any kind of awareness of the stress that people are going through looking at this. Um, I mean, my energy bill at the moment is £160 a month. So if I'm going to see my direct debit increase to, probably about £250 a month, that's still quite a lot. And I do okay. I mean, I can pay it, but there will be a lot of households who can't pay that, and it's just me and my partner in where we live right now. Imagine if we had two, three, four kids, the energy consumption goes through the roof. Then think about the fact that we're still in warmer climates right now. I mean, it's still quite warm for August. As we enter in September, October specifically, when it starts getting colder, entering into November, into December, where it gets really, really cold, a full house, family, those energy prices are going to start going really, really high. And now you're going to get into a situation where families are going to have to start looking at other alternatives, and debt is the biggest fear that I think people will start turning to. Credit cards, personal loans, overdrafts, which is where the big banks will start making a lot of money. They'll get a lot of profits. We'll then see this conundrum of profits being announced. Quarterly profits are up, share prices are up. And again, I suppose this is the duality of investing. Having a channel on YouTube that talks about investing. Duality of, it's great when a company is announcing great profits, but you look at the lay of the land and how these profits, the scenarios in which these profits are being made. I personally have a internal struggle with the duality of it all. Is it right? Probably not. But actually, as an investor, that's what you want your business to do. You want your business to take advantage of circumstances to increase their profits. It's a really, really hard balance to get right with in the head. Well, certainly in my head anyway. Some people may not feel that way, but that's certainly how I feel. This is an interesting one from Leslie, actually. Returns on solar systems are instant, returning 10% on capital outlay. Solar systems cannot be considered as an investment. It's a home improvement that reduces your energy consumption. Returns depend. Okay, that's interesting. So, interesting. Obviously, that will be based on how much it actually returns. Well, how much it saves you on your offset. But surely against the price cap, if the price cap is going up 80%, but your instant returns are 10%, it's 10% versus what though? So again, it's how I'd love to see that in numbers. I'm not saying that's completely wrong. Sounds like you know what you're talking about, Leslie. Certainly more than me. Good question here. Wish there was a solar panel solution option for flat owners. I'm sure there has to be one out there, surely. And if there isn't, then that's maybe a marketplace that needs to be addressed. I mean, again, the perfect solution to this is probably what Elon has done with Solar City, and the fact that your tiles are actually solar panels. That's probably the easiest and the best solution there is out there. Not that you can get that here in the UK at this point in time, but it's a pretty good solution that I guess would work for flats specifically. Yeah, this is a good point because I did see this, by the way. Whilst the government has actually said, you have to take on these losses, the shareholders are suing to say, well, actually, hang on a second, we bought, and again, this is duality of investing, right? Now, if you own shares of EDF and then you're being forced to incur losses as a shareholder who has money invested, what are your legal rights and your legal parameters to say, well, actually, why should I take on this loss when the company is being mandated by the government to take on losses? So if your pension fund is invested in that, right? So let's just say you're a pensioner, you're dependent on your pension fund for retirement, and you're in that kind of situation. What do you do? And this is what the EDF shareholders have done. They've had a look at it and thought, hang on a second, you know, why should we have to take on those losses within our pension funds and our investment funds because the government has said said that we have to carry this loss. It has to be accounted for. There has to be accountability somewhere. So again, and I think what Dab's getting to here is the question of nationalization, right? People may say that it's a good idea right now, but is it the right answer? That's for people to debate and find out and come to a conclusion of their own. I don't necessarily have an answer to that. I think there are pros and cons on both sides. But when you look at it in the cold light of day, in the context of where we are right now, and again, the context of where we are right now and circumstances, experiences will certainly color the decision and the debate. But if we were to move away from this and we were never in this situation at all, the outcome of that same debate would be very, very different. Is it the right answer, though? I really don't know. Someone's just saying here that the solution to nationalizing energy companies is to do an ISP or to get money for buying them up. I would invest. Interesting, yeah, possibly. I could definitely see that. I mean, would it really work? Possibly, yeah. I think maybe it could. Maybe it could. But an interesting point there. Yeah, Cardano's is saying here again, looking at the government was warned in September 21 that the energy prices were going to surge 5 months before the Ukraine war. What did they do? Nothing. Again, makes you ask the question: who's at the wheel and who's making decisions? Um, Yeah, we can look to blame someone, but really the main guilty party is Putin. The industry could absorb the spike in wholesale due to post-COVID demand, but the supply constraint due to Ukraine. And look, I've said this before, and this is why I've spoken about the fact that we've seen so many Bank of England base rate increases to combat inflation. But the inflation, when you're looking at inflation and what's driving inflation, it's the cost of energy and fuel that's driving inflation. You increasing the bank rate is never going to address that in any way, shape, or form. If anything, I think that it probably does more damage because for people who are in mortgages, so for example, someone who watches this channel, shared ownership, where you may have two separate mortgages as part of your home ownership package. You may not, and I know that this one person is not able to remortgage. She's on a standard variable rate. She cannot move from a standard variable rate to a fixed rate because of the shared ownership clause that she's basically in. So by putting up the Bank of England base rate, what you're doing is you're squeezing someone like that, so there's less disposable income, because now they've seen their variable rate, which was probably 1 point something, go up to 3 point something in the last 6 to 7 months, because the Bank of England base rate has increased, and that person is still having to take on energy cost increases as well. So you increase the bank rate, increase the cost of debt to encourage people to save more money and make it more, well, the savings rate to be better, even though it's not because of inflation. You're actually doing more damage in my eyes than good, because we haven't seen the inflation number budge. And come October, we will see the inflation number spike drastically. The Bank of England base rate and move and increase in interest rates is not going to help that one little bit until we fix the supply issue. And Russia, unfortunately, is one of the biggest producers in the world. So we've got that problem to try and solve. And that's not an easy one to solve. I was listening to conversations yesterday, and there seems to be this sentiment in France at the moment. So Marie Le Pen, she recently lost the election in France. She was of the argument that, or she was making the argument that we need to, we basically need to get rid of all the sanctions that we've had on Russia, because apparently, in her view, they're not working, and try and renegotiate energy prices from that point. But someone made a really good point. We've already imposed all of these sanctions. By unwinding all of them and then going back to Putin and saying, we're really, really sorry, we need your energy, let's negotiate prices back down to pre-sanction levels. That is very, very unhighly likely to happen. It won't happen. And so what do you do? And the argument there was, we need to hold fast. But the flip side to that is, it's going to be painful. It's going to be painful for everyday people. And then, the skeptics, the critics will then say, well, was this thought through when the sanctions were announced? Probably not. I don't know. Who knows? You would hope so, but who knows? So we find ourselves in a really, really difficult position where nothing seems to make sense and nothing seems to appear as though it's been thought through. It doesn't feel like there's a plan in any way, shape, or form. It feels like the system is broke. And unfortunately, it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, because unless we're able to solve the energy problem in some way, shape, or form, the price cap will continue to increase every 3 months until the point that I don't know what's going to happen. People can't afford it now. Further increases happen. They will increase every 3 months. We need an intervention. 100%. We need an intervention from the government. We need to see some leadership as well. Yeah, Naeem, I was there. Yeah, because you're right. They offer the broadband, the electricity, the whole thing. So the more you switch over, the bigger the discount that you can access will be when you fix with them. But like I said, I know I have old contacts who have worked with Utility Warehouse, and then they haven't worked with Utility Warehouse, and I've heard good and bad things about them. So it's not one that I would want to kind of highlight on the channel. Just, you just said your experience has been horrible, so I wouldn't want to put something like that on the channel if people have a really bad experience and it came from me. Yeah, but if you are watching this and you watch this post replay and you want to go and explore it, by all means, the website is there. But if you've been watching this and you stay in tune, I think Naeem's had a bit of a horrible experience with them. So just go into it with your eyes open. Let me just see where I am. I'm keeping an eye on time. 52 minutes in. Again, I would love to have somebody actually just come on and have a little chat and just share what their experience are. If you feel brave enough, again, no judgment or anything like that. You don't have to be on camera if you don't. But I'm going to try and get through as many of these comments as possible because, again, I do want you guys to have your say, and I want to learn a little bit about how you guys are feeling about things as well. This will come in handy for me actually for something that I've got planned in September as well. So it'll be interesting to speak to you guys. So let's just see where I was. Okay, so you're saying, let's just get this. I didn't see this one, Naeem. So you're saying you're with Octopus now, and you were given a partial refund amount from Opus. How did that work then, mate? Can you just maybe type how that actually worked for you then? So you went from did you go from utility warehouse to Opus, or did you go from somewhere else to utility warehouse, then to Opus, then to Octopus? How did that actually work? Octopus Energy, I was with them maybe 3 years ago, and actually they were really, really cool. Their app is awesome, but I don't know what deals they actually have available at this point in time. And because I have Octopus Energy, let me see if I can find anything right now. And if you got a refund, I think that's really, really good as well. Actually, to be fair, and probably not something that people would expect. I don't think they actually have any tariffs right now. 1 second. Get a quote. No, I don't think they have any tariffs right now because when you go onto the website and you tick on get a quote, you've got to put in your email address. I've just put in mine now and it says you're on a list. So I don't think they have any tariffs right now. But mate, if you could give a little bit more information, I'll keep an eye out for your for a comment just to see what your journey was like. So did you go from another provider to utility warehouse to your Opus, then onto Octopus Energy, or were you going from Octopus Energy from Opus, and so on and so forth? So there we go. I've got a new camera. You can gesture it, and it's got artificial intelligence and all that kind of stuff. It's awesome. So that just read a hand gesture, which is why it zoomed out. Right, let's see where I am. Where was that comment? Am I going in the wrong direction? There we go. Okay, cool. All right, this is a really good point from Sam. Why don't people just pay monthly if they're worried about their direct debits going up? I'm with Octopus, and every month I send my electric reading, and they generate a bill 2 days later. I pay. Naeem, okay, let me just get to you, Naeem, because you've actually just come on now. 1 second, mate. Let me just bring you on. Octopus, and every month I send my electric reading, and they generate a bill 2 days later. I pay. Naeem, okay, let me just get to you because you've actually just come on now. 1 second, mate. Let me just bring you on. Octopus, and every month I send my electric reading, and you might have to mute the audio on.
Sorry,
that's all right, mate. Yeah, I can hear you, mate. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm good, thank you, man. Yeah,
it's good to hear your voice, mate, because I see your handle all the time, and it's nice to put a voice to the handle. Really, to be fair.
Oh yeah, hold on. Wait, so hold on. There we go, because it's like a double echo. But wait, can you hear me now, mate?
I can hear you now.
All right, sick. So hi everyone. Just wanted to share my story. So basically, I moved into a one-bed flat. My housing officer did say that I'm on a business rate, so I do need to look elsewhere. I did check with Opus Energy first, but they weren't offering any domestic use tariffs. So did my comparison website switching to see which one had like the best deal, and utility warehouse popped up. So I did contact them. They went through all the this is the tariff and so on and so forth. But then it was just like a nightmare to get switched over, because then they requested a £100 deposit. Did that. They said contact the national database to make sure you connected. Did that, and basically it was up to them really. So I think they didn't pass on the message. I think the team really was just a poorly set up, if I'm being honest. And then 4 or 5 months still with Opus Energy charging me again the business our contract rates. And again, when I saw the bill, like £601, like crying out loud, mate,
Mm-hmm.
like that was hurtful. And followed by that was 450 roughly. And it was tough because like I didn't want to pay it, but then I said to myself, if I don't pay, it's going to be on my credit file for like 6 years. I think
Six
that's it.
years.
I think I
Six
remember
years.
looking at your video on that, so I appreciate
Yeah.
the nugget there. And yeah, I was just like crazy. So I didn't want to, but luckily I'm a decent saver. So yeah, I did have some funds in the saving account. I had to dip into that, and I didn't want to, but again, I had to pay the bill somehow. So I did that. But still, again, with Opus Energy and waiting for Utility Warehouse to do their thing in their end, sorry, to get me switched over. And then after, I was on holiday. Then they cancelled my package, and I was like, okay, then let me get my deposit back. And luckily, they were quite friendly and sorted me out there. And yeah, it's just time was ticking because I tried to, I was always organised and prepared to say that, obviously the October is coming up and the price is going to go, through the roof, especially me being with Opus Energy.
Mm.
So yeah, no, I just, time against the, I was against time, and I was like, okay, need to try and find a energy supplier. And yeah, again, looking at the websites, we're not offering a quote because the quote that you should be on, okay, is probably the best one for now. And if the company does go bust and things, but they didn't really understand the situation that I was in because I was on business rate. But trying to cut the story short, luckily I was able to find Octopus Energy. Yeah, they offered me a personal quote, so I had to call them up first. So
Okay.
they do have that on the website saying that, if you are interested, still the price is going to be quite high. We can offer you a personal quote. Just contact this number. So go and contact them first. And I did that. And yeah, lovely gentleman. Yeah, just gave me a personal quote. And I said, yeah, this good tariff rate. And then yeah, went with that. So started yesterday actually.
Nice. Okay.
We'll be waiting obviously for the refund or the credits that I'll be getting from Opus Energy. And the lady I was speaking to was quite nice too. But that's the story really. I hope you guys understand that, and hopefully it helps really.
So are you fixed now? And how long are you fixed for?
No, so I'm on a variable
Okay.
currently, but luckily there's no like exit fees or anything like that when I was speaking to the
Good.
correspondent. So yeah.
Good. Good. Yeah, it's interesting really because, like I said, I've just filled in their form, and yeah, you just got to go on a list essentially. So, but it's nice that you can actually ring them and they can give you kind of like a personalized kind of quote. So I guess that was based on your meter readings and your usage, right?
Yeah, because like I think yeah, I just forgot really to submit my meter reading. I think it was April, but then after that really I didn't, and yeah, they overestimated. I think I did put it down in the chat. Sam must have mentioned it. Yeah, just make sure that you submit your meter reading so that they charge you at exactly on what you use instead
Yeah.
of approximate. So do remember that, guys. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've had that before, and with a provider that was in previously, where I used to charge my car at home when I first got it. This is probably about 6 years ago. Um, Everything was run on estimated numbers, and I was
Okay.
paying really, really large bills at the time. But the last time that I moved, because I was People's Energy, then People's Energy went bust, so I'm now with British Gas as a result of that. But when I
Mm,
went with People's Energy, I gave them my actual usage because I tracked the meter readings, and
mm,
that brought down my monthly bills by
mm,
probably about 100 quid or so.
mm.
So it's really, really important where you can to track the actual usage that you're using and not allowing them to use the estimated because they're always going to overestimate and charge you more.
Yes, correct. But yeah, that's really my story. I hope that sort of made it clear in the context, and anyone that's similar, yeah, just make sure you try and call up your energy suppliers, man, so that you can explain your situation and problems. But obviously, wishing them really the best to try and if you need to get switched over to a cheaper tariff or anything like that. But do speak. If you don't speak, then you're going to be digging a deeper hole. So just make sure you're talking. But yeah, I don't want to waste too much of your time, Pete, because obviously you're going through the comments. But I just want to big up yourself, Pete, because seriously, I know it's not just me, but I've learned, quite a lot. Even my mates, that they enjoy your content. So seriously, what you're doing on Lorraine, what you're doing on Rewirement podcast, yeah, man, you're doing big things, man. It's just really a blessing just to see you move forward. So yeah, we're all behind you, and just keep on going, really, man. I really appreciate your time and effort and everything that you do. So thank you very much, seriously.
I appreciate you, Naeem. Thank you, man. Cheers. Right. Okay. So I hope everybody got that from Naeem, and I've got to second that as well. Like, please, please, please. You know, I've spoken about Don't Pay UK, and it's not for me to tell anybody what to do, but I do think that the first port of call is to try and speak to your energy provider. Like I said, I'm with British Gas. I tried to speak with them today. They weren't very helpful, but you need to basically try and speak with them. So this is my plan. Even though I had a chat, well, I tried to have a chat with them this afternoon to gauge what help they could offer, and that didn't necessarily go well. What I have done is I've printed off the transcript, right? So what I'm going to do on Monday, well, Tuesday, is ring them and try and get someone on the phone. And if they're not helpful, at least I have record of the fact that, listen, I've tried to have a conversation with you guys. You guys weren't helpful. This is my situation. You didn't really want to hear me out. You need to have dialogue with them first and foremost. In opposed to just canceling the direct debit, and then, there's all kinds of stuff that can happen, and, court summons and all. You don't want any of that nonsense. Speak to them first. If you don't get anywhere with them, right, then maybe go and explore that. But like Naeem has just said the right thing. Communicate. Open communication is very, very, very important. This comment right here, why don't people just pay monthly? I think, right, so let's talk about the direct debit thing. So if you did cancel your direct debit and you just said, listen, just send me a bill. I mean, some of them may send you a bill quarterly, some of them may send you a bill monthly. It's just a little bit more work for you to do. Now, if I'm completely honest, if you think about the increases in the direct debits, especially if they're estimating how much energy you use and it's not your actual usage, your direct debit is probably going to jump quite a bit. So if you were to go on to maybe like a standing order, or you were to go on to uh, a system where you paid quarterly, where they send you a bill, it's really, really important that you track your usage. So you can say, right, this month I've used this much. Can you estimate how much that's going to be? Or at least you can try and give a rough estimation yourself. If you've got smart meters, that will be great for that. It's just tracking those numbers. It's then putting that money aside, making sure you've got it there. So there's nothing wrong with doing that, but please have a conversation with them first and foremost. I mean, I think, Sam, it sounds like you've got the right system in place here, in terms of you're not paying by direct debit and you're in communication with them. They just send you a bill every month, and you know exactly what it is you're going to pay. But in those circumstances, it would be really helpful to know what your actual usage is. And if you've got a smart meter, that's an easy way to do it. If not, it's taking a meter reading every single month. And those meter readings are really, really important, because you want to make sure that their records and your records tally up, and they're not charging you based on an estimated rate. A really good point there. Cheers for that, Sam. I'm just looking at the other comments. 1 second. Yeah, well, Ofgen. They allow energy companies to get their energy from nuclear and wind to charge the same prices as oil and gas suppliers. Yeah, I mean, there are lots of questions to be answered by Ofgen, to be honest. The reason that they allowed for the energy price cap to be changed every 3 months in opposed to 6 months was because they were fearful of companies going bust, which is why they've allowed for the energy price cap to be moved every 3 months, so that those companies can pivot and move within that 3 month period. I get the business case for it, but I think within that argument, maybe they have lost sight of how that actually affects consumers to a degree. Because the argument was, well, if you change the price cap every 3 months, well, if there's any changes in terms of the price cap reducing, that can be passed on immediately. But let's not be naive. That doesn't always happen in 100% of the cases, particularly when businesses are involved. Profits obviously take precedent, bottom line, sometimes more so than customer service and looking after their customers. So you're putting a lot of faith in the companies to do the right thing and pass those reductions over immediately. Business don't necessarily have a good track record of doing that 100% of the time. So I can understand where they might be like, well, you need to make sure that we've got enough energy supplies for competition and all that kind of stuff. We don't want them going bust and all that. I can understand that, but how does it impact consumers? That's a really, really hard balance to make. But they do have they have a lot of answers, a lot of questions to answer for. Universal credit, £300 per month. Um, like I said, look, let me just I did mention this a little bit earlier on, so let me just talk about this because I think it is important. I am doing some work with them as an ambassador. We're pushing for a press release for an article that I wrote for them a few weeks ago. Um, and look, the work that they're doing is really, really important. And again, if it may not be you, it may be someone that you know, or a family member, or someone um, in your circle, in your acquaintance, right? That may find turn to us really, really helpful. Again, all they basically do is they've got a campaign going at the moment. They're asking how many more people have to, resort to food banks and, suffer the increase of these energy prices to the point where it's squeezing people's ability to be able to, put food on the table. And really, it's all about checking out the benefit entitlement. And listen, this will take you probably about 10 minutes or so to do. But like I said, if you are struggling or you know someone who is struggling, it could be a really, really good 10 minutes to spend. Now, the numbers that were thrown out there over the last 12 months around the amount of money that continues to be unclaimed or was unclaimed in the benefit system was £15 billion. And that was a function of people not being aware of what benefits they're entitled to and just assuming, well, I'm on 35 grand a year, so I'm definitely not going to be eligible for XYZ, when in fact you are. Taking 10 minutes to complete the benefits entitlement or the benefits calculator could generate some additional income, or at least attract some additional income into the household of yourself or someone that you know or someone in your circle, an acquaintance. So please use this as a resource. It's one that you have to go through if you're with trying to go through the British Gas Energy Trust. They're the first link right there. So I'd encourage everyone, just go and complete it, see what you're eligible for. You might get something, you might not, but if you do get something, you'll be thankful for it. And it's a free service. It doesn't cost you anything. It's going to probably take about 10 minutes of your time. So if you do know someone who might find that useful, please just share the URL. I will post it. I will link it in the comments right after this stream. Let's see what else we've got here. There's a really good conversation going on between Sam and Jay here, and this is the kind of stuff that I like to see on live stream. Having conversations. That's the whole point of doing this. It's so that you can have your say, you can talk to each other. I think sometimes we get into this feeling that we're alone in these kind of situations. If you're struggling, it's just you, and it can definitely feel like that. It can feel like you're just fighting this battle all on your own. And it's nice sometimes when you're speaking to people who have similar fears, similar views, similar worries, and you can bounce off each other, think about ideas and questions that you want to ask each other, and that can result in good things happening as a result of it. And I hope if one person gets benefit in that way from this live stream, then an hour and 10 minutes becomes worth it on a Sunday afternoon. People agree that what happened in Ukraine is tragic. However, this island is virtually on its knees. Kids and families who are suffering. Yet the government sends over 3.8 billion in aid. Really, yeah, I can completely appreciate that 100%. I mean, I don't know how the aid bits and pieces actually work, because every single day or every single week you hear that we're sending X amount of billions in, I don't know, arms or equipment and stuff like that to these countries. I don't know whether those are in physical form or whether it's how much of it is actually in monetary form, whether those are things in resources but they put a monetary value to it. But I completely get what you're saying. Like, when if we look at it from a selfish point of view, yeah, what's happening over there is really, really horrible. But how do we look after our own? But then you can't but help also ask the bigger question of, do we have a responsibility to those other countries, to Ukraine and to anyone else, for example, that may be going through conflicts like this? I mean, that in itself is a completely different debate, and that's a huge debate because that's multifaceted. There are so many nuances within that debate itself. And but when you're in the ground and you're looking at, right, how am I going to put food on the table, it's very easy to ask those questions, and they're legitimate questions to ask. It really, really is. I can't say that you're wrong for it, because everyone will think that. Whilst, because they say charity starts at home, well, you want to make sure that your home is looked after first before you look outwards to help other people. And I get the sentiment that people will feel as though the home isn't being looked after, but we're looking after other people out there at the moment. How do you strike the balance between the two? Who, I don't know. Really good conversation going on there in terms with Sam and budgeting here. Mention of Martin Lewis. I have to say he's done a really good job. He's been slated a little bit for scaremongering and stuff, but I don't think it's really scaremongering. I think he's just been very, very honest around what he's seen coming down the track. And I think in these kind of circumstances, you want to know what's coming down the track so you can mentally prepare yourself. There's nothing worse than having a really nasty surprise like this come through that you weren't prepared for. Yeah, Joseph's saying here that he pays on a variable direct debit, and he's just checked, and it was the same as the direct debit tariff. Who are you with, Joe? This is true, um, by the budgeting bear. So how this the direct debit, the benefit of having a direct debit is, if you think about it from a business point of view, right? A business is all about cash flow. So they want to know what income they're going to have coming through over a month, 6 month, 12-month period. So typically, when you pay by direct debit, they apply a discount to your direct debit. If you don't pay by direct debit, then what they do is they take that discount away because they know that they can't account for your payment in their cash flow estimation, right? And so therefore you pay a little bit more if you don't pay by direct debit. So this is where you go back to the maths, right? If you've got a direct debit and you know that you have an indication of what your direct debit is going to be increased by, especially at the rates that we're seeing right now, the question is, does the monthly increment work out to be less than the discount that you get for paying by direct debit? In most cases, I would probably argue at this point in time that it won't be. You'll probably be paying more by monthly incremental once you stack it up over the year than if you were to say, actually, I'm going to cancel my direct debit and lose that discount, if that makes sense. And that's something that you've got to make a decision on based on your circumstances. And it is a very, very real decision that a lot of people are going to have to make once they start getting emails and letters out in the next couple of weeks about what their energy bills are going to be going up to on the 1st of October. Because if, again, you're only saving what your discount is £200 to £300 a year, but your direct debit is going up by 60 to 70 to £80 a year, it's a question to ask. But then again, on the flip side to it, if your bill is going up by 60 to 70, £80 a month, again, is it estimated or is it actual? And if it is, going to be going up by that amount, you still have to pay it. So you need to be able to make sure that you're able to budget and you've got the cash flow for that personally. So you're not falling behind. And a lot of people will fall behind anyway. But again, that's the reason why you have to speak to your provider. You have to be speaking to your energy provider and asking for help if you ever need it, because they have to offer payment plans. They have to offer some form of assistance. So yeah, please just remember that. This is another good point that Budget Bear's making here, that you can ask back any overpayment. So if your account is in credit, you can ask for that money back. On the flip side, energy companies are known to be really, really slow with issuing those kind of refunds. So for my conversation earlier today, apparently my account is in credit by 500. What did he say? He said it was in credit by £587 is what I'm in credit by. Now, I'm not going to ask for that money back because I'm concerned about what my direct debit is going to go up to in October. So now that I know I've got £587 in credit in that account, and I know that we're going to all be allocated the £400 to our account. So how it's going to work is in October and November, your bill is going to be reduced by £66 per month. And then from October to March, it's going to be reduced by £67 a month. I know that I've kind of got a visual of what my account balance is like. So when I get the communication in a couple of weeks of my direct debit is going to go up by this much, I know how much I'm in credit by. I know how much help I'm going to get in terms of £66 reduction for the first 2 months and £67 reduction for the next 4 months after that, to know, okay, right, from a budgeting point of view, household, personal, I know how my land basically lies right now. So if you are in credit, you can ask for it back, but I do think it's worthwhile, if you are in credit, keeping it there and then using that to aid your budgeting moving forward, in opposed to getting the money back, even though you might really need it right there in the moment. You can do either or, but I think it's really important to try and take it as I guess, as a bit of information that can help you budget a little bit better and at least account for the few months coming ahead when the price cap actually kicks in October. Yeah, Amma said it here. Get off the estimating bills. Look, it took me a little bit of time to work out how much my energy usage actually was, but trust me, it's worth the exercise. It might take you an hour and a half, but it's really, really worthwhile the exercise trying to nail down your actual usage. If you go back through your historic bills, you can work it out very, very quickly. But it's very, very worthwhile. Do not allow them to estimate you and get you to pay more than you need to be paying, particularly if things are tight right now. Please, please do everything that you can to make sure that you can try and get onto your actuals and find out what your actual usage is based on your past statements. I'm just looking back down through the comments. I think I'm almost at the bottom here of the comments here. So let me just rush through and see which ones I can pick up. I'm just a little conscious of time. We've been an hour and 20 minutes here. There's a conversation going on between who's profiteering and stuff like that. I think a lot of the retail companies aren't actually making a lot of money these days. I mean, it's the big players who are able to refine, that are really able to make a lot of money and have been posting a lot of profits. So, when we're pointing the finger, it's really important to try and separate out who's really making money. I mean, there was this video of this guy going around on TikTok, and he basically refused to pay the full price for his fuel at the pump. And it's like, well, the pump and the provider at the pump probably isn't making a lot of money at all. Their margins are razor thin, and it's questionable once you've pumped gas into your car to say that you're only paying a certain amount. Then get into the territory of what's the legal language around what that actually is. Is it theft? Are you breaking the law? So we need to be mindful of that, because you see so much stuff on social media, and you have to be careful sometimes. I'm just saying, he's buying candles and mobile gas heaters. I'm not paying these rip-off prices. I only have electric heating. Hey, listen, a lot of people will be buying thermals. I might even buy some thermals during the winter just to keep warm, and electric blankets and stuff. You got to do what you got to do at the end of the day. Satoshi is saying here that debt recovery is going to be huge going forward. It's worthwhile speaking about this, actually, because one of the arguments that you're hearing from the likes of Don't Pay UK is, what they're going to do, send some letters and debt recovery agents. Trust me, they will. They will. You think that they won't because a million people sign up. A million people may not get the letter immediately, but trust me, these companies will. They will do that because what they're doing is they're selling on your debt. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. They will sell on your debt. So, to a certain extent, they're going to have part of that money come back in. So, someone's going to buy your debt. So, they may not. So, for example, if you owe 300 quid, right? They may not get the full 300 quid, but they may sell your debt for 200 quid. So, they're still getting money in anyway. They're taking a little bit of a loss. But trust me, that loss of 100 quid is a whole lot better than them just writing off your 300 quid debt altogether. So they will sell on your debt. And trust me, whoever buys their debt will be sending out letters. It will go down to county court judgments. It will go to court summons. People think because there are going to be large numbers involved and large numbers are involved that they won't do anything. They will. They 100% will. It might take some time for it to get round to you. It might take 6 months or a year, but trust me, that letter will be winging its way in the post. The question is, do you want that? If the answer is yes, then by all means. If you don't, well, then, communication, open dialogue with your providers. It's really, really important. You've got to start there first. If you're not getting the results, or you're not having the kind of conversations that are helpful that you want, document it, because that's when you can go to the ombudsman. And that's when, technically, even though the ombudsman can't find them, can't dictate or tell them what to do, they will act as a mediator. You're likely then to get a more favorable outcome going to that extent. But you have to cross the hurdles of speaking with your provider first before you can get to the ombudsman. I mean, someone said, funnily, in one of the videos, that there are protections for people who pay by direct debit, but it's like, you're advocating cancelling your direct debit. So the protection that you're speaking of isn't going to apply for you once you cancel your direct debit. We need to think this through logically and just be careful of it. And that isn't to dismiss people who are in situations where they have no choice. All I'm saying here is, it's not my decision to make. And my job, as I see it, is to allow people to have all of the factors so that they can make the best decision for them. If people feel like, I'm going to cancel my direct debit, I'm going to join the movement, and that's the best decision for you, then by all means, that's the right decision for you. But as long as you've covered all of the bases which we're talking about here on the channel, that's the most important thing. I'm just going through some of the comments on here. There are stories of so again, I was listening to a conversation yesterday on radio, and there are companies, and I can't remember who it was, that they were saying that some companies, because you could cancel your direct debits and go to a standing order, there are some companies that are no longer accepting standing orders, so it limits your ability to cancel by direct debit. But again, in that kind of scenario, if you did feel that cancelling your direct debit was the right thing for you to do, again, have that conversation and ask them to bill you either monthly or quarterly. Monitor your meter readings, and then provide those and pay on a monthly basis. But yeah, standing orders sometimes don't actually. Some of the companies don't allow standing orders, so you can't pay your monthly by a standing order. So just to be aware of that, you might have to ask the question. Asif, how you doing? Nice. There was a comment on that Octopus here. Octopus always pays overpaid back within 5 days with amounts as little as £50. So that's good. That's a really nice testimony for Octopus. I think when I was with them, I was in credit, and to be honest, I did ask for money back after a long period of time, and they processed it really, really quickly. There was no, oh, we need to have a look into it and all this kind of stuff. I provided meter readings. It was like, oh, you're in credit by this much, we'll just send it back to you. There were no quabbles. So they were really, really good on that in that regard. I just want to read this message by the budget bear. There are millions in credit debt already and get pursued for it daily. So I don't know why they think the energy companies would be any different. It's true. If they're selling your debt on, like, you have to understand how this works. It's not just simply you owe them money and they're just going to be like, ah, don't worry. No, they will sell your debt to another company that will hire recovery agents. And remember, when you have recovery agents, they charge you for each time that they try to recover the debt. So you're only going to cause yourself more harm if you don't communicate. Just cancel your direct debit and think everything is going to be okay because they've got a million people. How many other people actually sign up to this thing? They will sell your debt on, and the person that they sell it on to will do everything that they can to recover that money, even if it has to go to county court judgment, because they've spent their money to purchase your debt. They want a return. You have to understand how this works. And that's why I'm filled with this despair sometimes when I see people making incorrect statements, particularly on TikTok, about this kind of stuff. And for me, I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. And I get the emotion behind it. I really, really do. But sometimes we have to make decisions that aren't emotive. We have to make logical decisions. And when you have emotions involved in something, it's very hard to make logical decisions with emotions involved. Separating the two is really important, but it's very difficult to do a lot of the time. And so, yeah, look, this is spot on. If your debt is sold on, trust me, you will be chased. Yeah. Just what I just said has been confirmed. I mean, these companies, even if you think about the evolution of how companies are now taking money, right? So a lot of companies, and you may see this with, if you've got, so for example, I really love movies and films, so I've got an Odeon membership, right? And that Odeon membership used to be paid by direct debit. They're no longer taking money via direct debit anymore. They're taking it as a card transaction. So they want your card number, and it's going to be billed to your card every single month. Now, people may think that that's pretty unharmful, right? But if you ever sit down and you're monitoring your finances through the period of a year, and this is what I do. I do a spring clean once a year. I'll sit down typically with all of my direct debits, and I would literally just have a look at what I'm using, what I don't need anymore. If you're accustomed to that and you're accustomed to looking at your direct debits exclusively, if they're taking money on your card, it's not going to be in your direct debit list. So you then have to pay attention to your card transaction. That means your bank statements every single year. So a lot of the companies, whilst they won't allow standing orders anymore, some of them are not even taking direct debits anymore. They're taking card transactions anymore now because that's the new way of them accounting for this money, and it's going to be coming off your card. You're likely to miss it as a card transaction because who sits through their bank statement every single month and scans through them all? You look at your direct debit list, 100% you do, but not necessarily your bank statements for your card transaction. So you need to be mindful of that as well, because that is a tactic that a lot of companies are now moving to, because it's outside out of mind. Okay, cool. So I think I've come to almost pretty much the end of the comments here in terms of the ones that are questions or things like that. Um, Cardano, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. These on VSP, it's good to talk about this truly unprecedented time it is, mate. I mean, look, my job here is to try and be as helpful as possible. That's why I started the channel in the first place. You guys have been on the journey with me, and I just want to be able to deliver as much value as possible at the end of the day. It's very difficult times, very uncertain times, and as I'm trying to amplify my voice and help more and do more, I don't want to forget where it all started, which is here on this channel. So I will I will do more of these lives as things kind of like progress. This one's a particularly long one, 1 hour 31 minutes. And I don't do this, and I should have done this at the see. every single time I do a stream, I completely forget to do this, right? Because I just jump straight in because I want to get into it. If you have not subscribed, so if you're watching this live right now, or you're watching this on replay, and you've got to this point, first and foremost, I applaud you, because the attention span on social media is so short right now. But if you are watching and you aren't subscribed to the channel, do me a favor and click the subscribe button down below. I'll be doing more of this stuff. My job here is to help. That's what I want to do. Share my knowledge. 15 years in the industry in financial services. I'm qualified mortgage advisor, qualified financial advisor. I just want to help as much as possible. Share the things that I've learned. Also, the other thing that will really help, if you have had value in this and you found it really useful, please like the video, because that will help with the YouTube algorithm pushing it to other people who might find this interesting as well. There are 27 likes right now. There's 41 of you on here right now. It will be nice to get this to about 35. So if you can, just press the like button. That will be awesome. And if you haven't subscribed already, feel free to subscribe. The videos are once a week now. They're Tuesday, but I will do live sessions in between. I'm doing a load of shorts at the minute as well, just speaking to people about how they're feeling about things, so on and so forth. I do a lot of investment content, although I haven't really spoken about the markets extensively over the last kind of like month or so. I don't know. I could, but it feels like this is more important right now, just helping on the ground with the everyday stuff. We will talk about the markets even more moving forward. But if you aren't subscribed, please do subscribe. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with me. Naeem, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you. But yeah, if you do have questions, you have comments, leave them down below. I will link Turn to Us in the comment section after I finish this. And I think there's one other one that I mentioned that I need to remember, that I need to link as well. But I appreciate you this Saturday afternoon. Is it Saturday? Is it Saturday today? What is today? No, it's Sunday. It's Sunday today. It's Bank Holiday Monday tomorrow. Enjoy your Sunday, and I'll catch you later on. Cheers.